French government would or not. But yeah, there's definitely an attempt to delay things on the French side. But is it maybe just kicking the can down the road towards an inevitable ratification if there's a majority of EU member states that want it? Because again, it's not a unanimous rule. It can be done through a qualified majority. So we'll have to see whether France finds itself ultimately isolated on this, Francois.
It's the Germans working on the Italians now.
Yeah, the Germans are very keen on this this trade deal to go through because, of course, Friedrich Merz says, to come back to your point about Donald Trump, Trump can't be relied on anymore. We in Europe have to forge ahead with our own strategic independence, our own trade deals, etc.
Many thanks. Armin Georgian, our Europe editor, will be talking us through all the way to Thursday's EU summit. Ahead of that summit, the European Union rolling back a 2035 deadline for banning combustion engine vehicles. That's been a hobby horse of the far right and of the automotive industry on this continent, which has been reeling the last few years. The regulations would instead favor hybrids. Makers would still have to lower, though, carbon emission standards by 55% from 2021 levels by the year 2032. That's in 6 years' time. For more, let's cross now to André Lozico-Petri of the Joint European Disruptive Initiative. Thanks for joining us here on France 24.
Hello, Francois. Great to be here.
Environmentalists are denouncing what they see as another rollback of environmental norms. 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, when there were the Fridays for the Future, the European Union was on a different course. Is it a complete rollback?
Well, it is a complete failure of the methodology that has been applied. Instead of setting a societal goal, which remains extremely relevant, I mean, we all saw in Paris the Eiffel Tower painted in green, illuminated in green because we were celebrating 10 years of the Paris Accord. The methodology was wrong from the beginning. We gave a technical objective, so we talked about thermal engines and van and electric engines, instead of setting a goal, which is to reduce massively the emissions. So instead of leaving creativity, engineers, innovation at play, we basically, from offices out of bureaucrats in member states, not just in Brussels, but also in member states' capital, we kind of tried to micromanage how innovation would go. And of course, today, we realize that we didn't achieve this transition. We let a whole industry die, or at least be in dire straits. Look at the German or the French automotive industry. We let a Chinese industry blossom, the electric engine, and we basically need to bite the bullet and roll back on our environmental goals. I mean, it's a total disaster.
Is it a 180-degree turn?
Well, it is just a pragmatic realization that we won't be there in 2035 as was achieved. So basically now we go from 100 to 90%, but there's this famous 80-20 rule or 90-10 rule in this case, where basically the 10 last percent where you want to remove is often the most difficult to achieve. So it's not a 180-degree turn in the values. I mean, we still have the objective of decarbonation, but it's just much more pragmatic according to reality and not just through some theoretical paperwork or dossiers done within offices. And it's terrible because it gives the impression to our citizens that, number one, we don't stick to our course, and secondly, we are not achieving impact on the ground. So I hope Europe will learn out of this.
Manufacturers had lobbied hard for this, saying that it's impossible to compete with China. Now, there were outliers. For instance, Volvo, which has the Chinese EV maker Geely has a minority stake in Volvo. They were saying if you delay this move any further, you're going to make yourself even less competitive.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Geely is the majority shareholder of Volvo Cars. But that being said, indeed, the risk is that if we don't set a goal that is hard but achievable, And obviously the 2035 100% ban is today clearly seen as unachievable. The risk is that you run after the others. And right now we will end up in running after the Chinese EV industry that had 10, 15 years to prepare itself for the current transition. The worst would be what you sometimes hear from some automotive manufacturers, especially the Germans, one who say, let's go back